What a life, what a life. I can't believe that this is my life. What a life, what a life. But I never trade for anybody else's life.
Are you late for work?
Yes, I am actually.
Where do you work?
I work in Dumbo in Brooklyn.
What do you do?
I'm a web producer.
Yeah,
I'm Steve Buscemi.
I am. This is Gino.
Hello.
You can call him Gio, though. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If you were mayor,
Yeah.
what's the first thing you would do?
Okay.
Or what's the second thing? It doesn't matter.
I'd make more affordable housing.
All right.
Is that a good answer? That's pretty good for not having coffee, I think.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm gonna go get some.
All right.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Emma.
Emma.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks,
Have a
Emma.
good day. Yeah. Sure.
What do you do for a living, if I may ask?
I'm retired.
Oh, you are? Well, what did you do?
I work as a doorman for 36 years in the same building
Where?
in the Upper East Side, right by Gracie Mansion.
Oh, really? And do you like this neighborhood?
I love it. When I came here, it was terrible. It was bad. It was a lot of crime, a lot of drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't safe bringing the kids to the park, but now,
Right.
forget it. You know, any day of the week, I'm safe, you know.
So, what past mayors have you liked?
Bloomberg.
Bloomberg.
I like Bloomberg in spite of all this bad thing that's done, you know, because Bloomberg is for the rich, but crime went down. All this stuff about search and freeze or
Stop
whatever,
and frisk.
stop and
Yeah,
freeze,
yeah.
they should have kept it.
Were you worried that crime is going to go up?
Yeah, I'm worried that crime might go up.
I think the people are full of hope and desire that things will change. And we know it takes time to transition into a new space after Bloomberg. But please, like, have some passion, have some ideas, you know, be a king, come out and, I mean, a king in a good way, like a king of the people.
Oh, hey.
Steve.
Nice to see you.
Man,
All right.
it's okay.
All right.
I think you need a little more rest.
This
How are
is
you, Mr. Mayor?
this
Good
is
morning.
Gio.
Gio, what's going on here, man? Di nessuno. What's that?
Darsi di nessuno. Trust no one.
That's a strong statement, brother.
Yes, it is.
Why don't you have a seat? So, you were just coming from a staff meeting?
Yes.
How'd that go?
It's good, but there's a lot going on.
Right.
That's always the challenge around here. Like, how do you make sense of the constant flow? You can't stay on anything too long because there's always another thing.
So, what do you concentrate on?
So you try to start with a set of beliefs and goals, and you try to keep that train running despite everything else that comes in.
How much time do you have to devote to the press? I mean, you can't ignore it totally.
The best thing to do is stay on the proactive agenda, not the reactive. Do your job and let it speak for itself. In a funny way, that's counterintuitive. You know, you can spend a lot of time explaining rather than doing.
You know, we've been talking to people on the street. The number one concern when we were talking to people, right? A lot of people said affordable housing.
Yeah, that's what I found during the campaign.
It just seems like nowadays that affordable housing is always tied to luxury condos. Can we not just build affordable housing just for the sake of affordable housing?
I think it's a question of just the magnitude of the need, right? Our plan is for 200,000 units of affordable housing over 10 years. That's enough for 400 to 500,000 people, and yet it will not be enough. There is no such thing, and I think it's a sad reality, there is no such thing as the federal government, for example, investing in traditional public housing anymore. That ended decades ago. So now it's what can you do yourself? Yes, there are some specific affordable housing developments, but at the same time, you need everything you can get your hands on, and when you're going through the development process, there really is an opportunity. And if that means in some cases the buildings are taller, but we get more people a better way of life, I'll take that deal.
You know, I was reading in the paper this morning about your movement towards building up New York's infrastructure and creating 12,000 jobs in certain fields and stuff like that. I mean, I'm all for it. I would love nothing more than see a bunch of carpenters on a work site.
How's that going?
I feel good about you know, the building blocks here, meaning the affordable housing plan is going to create a lot of jobs in and of itself. I feel good about what we're going to do with the Sandy aid money we're getting from the federal government, and that's going to also mean there'll be a lot of jobs, and my goal is to get those jobs to people from the affected areas.
Right.
I think there's a great opportunity to create jobs in all of the things that are about actually addressing climate change. The point to me is there's so much to do and so many jobs attached to it. The person I pattern myself after with total humility in this office is Fiorello LaGuardia, who had a very rich understanding of the role that government could play in terms of the impact it could make on people's economic lives. Government as a source for creating jobs, government as a source to improve working conditions, improve wages, improve benefits. And we've done that, for example, with the paid sick leave bill, which we just signed last week. I'm really excited about this. 500,000 more people will now have paid sick leave coverage.
And what about the minimum wage?
Look, I think New York City should have a right to set its own minimum wage. Obviously, at this point, our friends in Albany don't agree with that notion. But I'd like to see an increase in the minimum wage, and I'd like to see it constantly move with inflation. The other thing we're doing is living wage. Living wage says, if the taxpayer is subsidizing a company, we're requiring that company to pay a higher wage. This is a really powerful new vein that we're trying to work in to say, rather than the giveaways, which were so common in the past, if government has money that it's putting into the equation, we have to demand more back.
Right. Do you think people understand what's going on about charter schools and what your philosophy is?
No, they don't. And, you know, I have to make my view clearer. What's that biblical phrase? It's better to light a single candle than to curse the darkness, you know? Whatever has happened here in terms of misunderstanding, you know,
You gotta write that down. Yeah.
Can we get a tattoo with that right here? That one could go over the other one. It would contradict.
Write that down.
I think the point is, in this case, I've said for years that we would work with charter schools. I said we wouldn't favor charter schools over traditional public schools. But in terms of the educational side alone, we're not doing enough in terms of early childhood education. That's why I'm focused on pre-K. We're not doing enough in terms of extended learning day. That's why I'm focused on after school. We're not doing enough to attract and keep good teachers. When you get a talented teacher, you want to hang on to them for decades.
Right.
To me, whether a child is in a traditional public school, a charter school, a religious school, we care about that child. We want that child to succeed. That's going to determine the future of the city, whether that child succeeds. Okay, we can help you.
Please, oh yeah, stop and frisk. How has that changed?
It's changed a lot.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of this fact because, you know, this was a crisis that went on for years. Honestly, it was, you know, the basic concept of the democracy we live in wasn't functioning here because people were saying, we feel affronted, we feel disrespected, we're law-abiding, but we're being treated like we're criminals. And it was obviously with a racial dynamic and an age dynamic. It was pretty clear who got stopped: young men of color, young Black and Latino men. And the police statistics were consistent. Almost 90% of everyone stopped was innocent in every way. And it was not helping the police to be able to do the job they best can do. And I heard that from cops all the time. So when we came in, we said, we're going to abide by the Constitution. We're going to respect people's rights. That's actually the best way to keep everyone safe. The number of stops are down intensely. So the stops that we are doing now are actually much more consistent with, there's a suspect description, they're following that description, they're stopping people for a reason. And the police are communicating more with people about why they're being stopped, which is really important because anyone can understand if there was a crime and they said there's a devilishly handsome guy with a beard and tattoos on his arm, and they stopped you, you wouldn't say, hey, that's a disrespect to me, because of course they say, here's the description, you fit the description.
Right, you have to get the public on the side of the police.
And vice versa. We want that sense of like there's a total partnership where everyone is working on each other's side.
Well,
I like these notes. They're, stay focused.
okay, focus.
You're supposed to say, like, this one's supposed to say, meaning of life.
Yes.
Yeah, right? It's like that, like,
is it?
topics you want to discuss. Why are we here?
Can you tell us that?
Yeah, I thought you knew.
Don't know
I see
why.
you as a deeply spiritual person. I thought you knew.
Have you been meditating?
I'm meditating right now.
Are you? Good. You can. You could always be meditating.
Relax.
I knew he wasn't paying attention. He's meditating. Yo, you're meditating during the interview.
What do you do to, I mean, how do you stay relaxed? You know, what do you do for your mind?
Exercise.
Yeah.
And anytime I can walk. I'm like more into walking than ever. I don't care if I'm walking alone or talking with someone or having a meeting while walking. I always say if you're having a walking meeting, you will achieve things different than if you had a seated meeting. Sometimes when you're walking, it actually calms down your thinking. You'll get a little less agitated, a little clearer about your thinking. So it's not meditation. I'd love to get to that someday, or yoga or any of that. I'd love to get there someday.
Doing some sort of walking meditation.
But it's Italian walking meditation. A lot of hand gestures and nonstop talking.
Okay.
Right? But it has a meditation kind of element to it.
Now, do you trust?
He's probably one of the only men I might trust.
Okay.
Thank you,
Well,
brother.
then we've accomplished.